This is where the idea of mobile-first responsive design came in. This philosophy was first created by Luke Rybolski. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that right. And you can see the link on the bottom here if you want to read more about his philosophy. But the idea is behind something called progressive enhancement instead of graceful degradation. The idea here is that the website should scale up, not down. As an example, normally in responsive web design, we start with that view in the desktop mode, and then as we go to the smaller devices, we try to adapt to it. The idea behind progressive enhancement is the reverse, is that the default behavior of a website should be that mobile view. That's why we call it mobile-first responsive design. And that as we go to larger devices, we're adding on capabilities. We're adding on different parts of the UI that can be rendered on these larger screens. And the basic idea here is that the devices that are most capable of rendering large amounts of CSS and JavaScript are going to be the ones that are going to be dealing with the larger amount of code, and that is desktop computers and laptop computers, and even to some extent tablets. As we go up the scale, it's not just the screen size that is getting larger, the computational capability is also getting larger. Unlike typical responsive web design, mobile-first responsive web design starts with the common design being the mobile story. We can see for 0 to 480 pixels here, that should be the standard CSS for the mobile view. And then as we add CSS, we're adding it for the minimum screen size, not the maximum. So if this minimum screen size is greater than 480 pixels, we're going to add more CSS to show different elements, to enable things like animations, to enable the text to be adapted for that larger size, and then we're going to continue as the device size gets bigger. And typically in mobile-first responsive web design, these are going to be those 5 levels. And in fact, these are the same 5 levels that Bootstrap 3 uses. Bootstrap 3 is a fairly new release. And what's important to understand here, especially as you start to search for articles around Bootstrap, is that right now, this moment in time, most of the information on the web about Bootstrap is referring to Bootstrap 2 or below. Before Bootstrap 3, it supported responsive web design in the typical sense, but it was only optionally included. It wasn't baked in as part of the default experience. Including both the standard Bootstrap and the Bootstrap responsive allowed you to get responsive websites, but it used the standard responsive web design philosophy, and that was graceful degradation. This helped a lot of sites. Bootstrap is very popular out there. Get to websites that worked well on devices. But because it wasn't mobile first, some of the mobile experiences weren't high performing. You can see this in that Bootstrap 2 was popular in some frameworks like PhoneGap, where they were building mobile applications using HTML and JavaScript. But in many cases, they pulled out Bootstrap and they went with a very minimal set of CSS because of the weight of Bootstrap on these mobile devices. Bootstrap 3 made a clean break from this, and Bootstrap 3 is a breaking change from Bootstrap 2. Some of the comments out on the web are sort of angst-ridden because you have to change quite a lot in Bootstrap 2 in order to migrate to Bootstrap 3. They made a decision that they would rather get it right than to maintain backwards compatibility. This is, as far as I'm concerned, a fairly brave decision of theirs. It's a major version from these prior versions, and even though we're going to be talking about how to migrate a Bootstrap 2 to a Bootstrap 3 application in the last module of this course, it is a multi-step process. A big part of this change was to support mobile first, so that even on small devices, Bootstrap would perform well. But because of this change, they were breaking existing clients. What's interesting for you the developer, or you even the web designer, is that because Bootstrap 3 supports mobile-first responsive design, you're going to inherit that functionality from Bootstrap 3. You're going to need to be aware of the different size screens you're going after, but Bootstrap 3 is going to do most of the heavy lifting for you. And we'll see that in the next module when we talk about Bootstrap 3's layout.